for a long time and don't like knowing the ending before it even starts.
Speaking of those polls, President-elect Trump now attacking again rigged polls.
Let's keep our eye on here because the door's just open.
I'll
A very exciting moment indeed. A busy schedule for the president-elect will begin tomorrow morning, 8:30 a.m. There will be a private prayer service held at St. John's Episcopal Church. The president-elect and his family will attend that religious service, but he is gearing up for what is going to be a very exciting next 24 hours. Of course, he will be sworn in at noon tomorrow. This plane took off. This is a military plane carrying the president-elect and his family. Took off from LaGuardia Airport just a short time ago in the 11 o'clock Eastern Time hour. It is now landed in Washington at Joint Base Andrews, and we are watching for the president-elect to emerge any moment.
There's Barron, right?
Spokesman Sean Spicer indicating this morning that the president will give a philosophical speech.
So right away you saw Barron exit the plane. Donald Trump Jr. has exited the plane with some of his children. Of course, he's got 5 children. There's his wife as well. Eric Trump seems to be following directly behind with his wife, Laura. And there appears to be Ivanka Trump with her youngest baby that she had just last year in 2016. Of course, Jared Kushner, her husband, following directly behind. There is Tiffany, Donald Trump's youngest of his 4 children, and more continue to emerge.
Is that Marion Barry Trump, his sister, who sits on, I believe, the 3rd Circuit Court of Appeals, and is a federal judge and very well respected? I think that's who that is.
And of course, we are waiting for the president-elect, Donald J. Trump, to emerge himself. But what a moment, 12:16 p.m. Eastern Time, and he has arrived just ahead of the big day, Inauguration Day, taking place tomorrow.
You know, for all the buildup, as I watch the plane, United States of America, and he's about to come out, it really does sink in a way that it hasn't so far, that we're about to have a new president, unlike any president.
As I sit next to Julie Roginski, a staunch Democrat, did you ever see the day?
You know, it's not, well, for me, I did not have this reaction, I must admit, when George Bush became president. I certainly would not have had it, I believe, if John McCain had become president or Mitt Romney. This is something very different for me, not just because of my political affiliation, but I think because of the individual who's about to take office.
If you're just tuning in, we are waiting for the president-elect to emerge from that military plane. It has just landed in Washington. Ahead of tomorrow's inauguration, his family has already exited the plane. We have not yet seen the president-elect.
This is a pause for dramatic effect. Every showman knows how to do.
Is this Melania?
Ooh,
this is Melania.
New First Lady.
The soon-to-be First Lady, and there he is. President-elect Donald J. Trump has arrived in Washington. Just one day ahead of its inauguration, you are looking at the soon-to-be 45th president of the United States. I mean, who just said it?
I was 22 or 23 when Obama was elected, and it sounds naive, but I never thought it would end. I thought I would have to deal with Obama forever. And anyone other than Obama exiting that plane is a great morning for me right now.
And he is receiving the formal military salute as he lands and walks down the stairs and arrives in Washington alongside his wife, Melania. And such a busy schedule will get underway. The first festivities begin tomorrow morning at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time.
A lot of people will be watching the tone of the inaugural speech. Sean Spicer saying it'll be a more philosophical speech rather than an agenda-driven speech, because Donald Trump has had such a contentious transition, and that's by design. He is somebody who won the nomination, won the election by fighting and by fighting back. And so a lot of Americans will be tuning in, of course, to see what he has to say to the nation at noon tomorrow.
Well, you know, and it was an amazing sight just over an hour ago when he left New York City. People were lining the streets in Midtown Manhattan just to see him drive off to LaGuardia Airport.
And New Yorkers don't usually do that for anybody.
No, it's true.
Some of us are happy to just have 57th Street back, you know.
It's true.
Yeah.
And he is now in the vehicle, and it begins. We've got the countdown clock, as you can see, and that is a countdown clock to his swearing in. That will take place at noon Eastern Time tomorrow. Donald J. Trump has arrived in Washington ahead of the inauguration tomorrow. Yes. Julie, you're oddly silent.
I'm not silent. You know, I'm taking it in. I have to say, this is actually, it's not a joke or said for effect. This is, in some ways, this has made it much more real for me. I don't know about the rest of you, but again, not from a partisan perspective, but to see Donald Trump, who most of us had known in a very different capacity than as a senator or a congressman, an elected official, to emerge out of a plane that says United States of America on it, I think just made it that much more real visually, if a picture speaks 1,000 words or whatever other cliche it could come
And all
up with.
this while his transition process.
Yeah.
Some say it's going quite well. His camp says that, but there has been some scrutiny, and obviously hearings taking place on Capitol Hill today. Steve Mnuchin, the nominee he has chosen for Treasury Secretary, he's being grilled.
Yeah.
But all this as that process continues.
It does, and Democrats are fighting tooth and nail, probably setting the tone for what things are going to be like going forward, which makes sense. I mean, that's what they feel like they're going to have to do. It's different than what we saw in '08. You know, there were many more confirmations at this point in time, but that's sort of the tone that we might see going forward. I would say, obviously, policy and America and all those other things come first. And on a completely frivolous note, as we sit here, it was fun to watch Michelle Obama's fashion through the past 8 years. I mean, she had a lot of style. It's going to be interesting to see Melania's style. That coat, very sharp and fantastic. You know, can we say that?
Yeah, can I actually just say this to my fellow liberals out there? I think some of the opprobrium that Michelle Obama got over the last 8 years from some people was uncalled for. And I hope my side leaves Melania Trump alone and doesn't do that to her, because I think Melania Trump did not ask for this, certainly does not seem that she's craving it. I think would prefer to stay in New York if all else were equal. And whatever else happens with her husband, I really hope that we cut her a break and don't make her into some sort of meme that I think Michelle Obama was for the right, including some of the lovely tweets that I get every day about Michelle Obama that are very uncalled for.
Well, not only...
Can I curtail on that? I hope people let the Obama daughters be teenagers. There's already some things that have happened on the internet in the past year and a half, which I have completely come to Sasha and Malia's defense. They're going to make mistakes. This is the era of the cameras on every phone, cameras everywhere. They're young women, and I hope the media continues to go easy on their children as well.
Well, you know, I mean, that's one of the things about the internet. Every news organization that I've worked for, I have been told, you know, that the families, the wives and the children, the first spouse and the children are off limits. That these are not people that volunteered for this job, and you cannot, you know, make fun of them, be mean, any of that sort of thing. But obviously, in the age of the internet, people are going to say a lot of mean things, and not every organization operates by those principles.
About to go to college, they're young girls. I feel for them. People are ruthless.
All right, well, 24 hours ahead of thousands of people expected to fill the National Mall. Donald Trump, the president-elect, has landed in Washington after taking off from New York City just a short time ago. We saw his entire family come off of that plane, pretty much, children, grandchildren, and he was the last to come off with the First Lady, the soon-to-be First Lady, Melania Trump. And the festivities will shortly begin.
I'm sorry, but could you just imagine being Melania Trump from Slovenia, an immigrant who came here not as a child like I did, but as basically as an adult, and the transformation to go from basically being somebody who came here without any support or any family to now be the First Lady of the United States. That must be an amazing, amazing feeling.
Only our second foreign-born First Lady, and of course she's remaining for at least for a few months back in Trump Tower. I think this president, you know, most politicians, the White House is the nicest place they'll ever live. This president will also be spending a lot of time back here in New York at Trump Tower and at Mar-a-Lago.
And Howie, I know this is something that you report on and have been following a lot. But the president-elect has different plans for this inauguration. He's going to be attending less balls, say, than it was compared to Bill Clinton, who attended very many.
14,
The president-elect, he says he's going to be attending 3 balls. The parade, some presidents have had hours-long, 4-hour-long parades. His is intended to be 90 minutes. He plans to get right to work.
Well, Donald Trump has consulted with the former reality show producer Mark Barnett on how to produce this show, and it is a show made for television, and so I think it is more of a stripped-down inauguration, a little less of the festivities, and at the same time, you know, a lot of celebrities have gotten a lot of ink by saying they're not going to go and entertain there, but that's part of the culture war that seems to surround the incoming 45th president.
Yeah, day one, he said, I mean, my day one is going to be Monday because I don't want to be signing and get it mixed up with lots of celebration, says the president-elect. And here you go. There's reality TV for you. We have got cameras following the motorcade that has just left that military plane. that transported the president-elect and his entire family, as we saw, Donald Trump Jr., Eric, Ivanka, Tiffany, his youngest, the First Lady, the incoming First Lady, was aboard that plane. Grandchildren, you saw Donald Trump Jr.'s grandchildren get off the plane. They have arrived. The Trumps have arrived.
Isn't it interesting that one of the things that was out there swirling, I mean, you mentioned the reality show producer that they said was going to come out and produce this event, and for a day or two there was all that hoopla about, oh, is he going to take a helicopter, you know, from the Capitol over, and this is serious, you know, it's not about a reality show, it's not, and the media spent a bunch of time spinning about all that stuff, which ended up not being even remotely.
Okay, so something we know about where he is going, there's cameras right now on both sides of 11th Street. Trump is expected to arrive off the Pennsylvania Avenue entrance into the Trump Hotel for the afternoon's luncheon. So that is expected to happen shortly. Police have cleared the front hotel entrance of pedestrians, I should say.
What struck me in watching the family come off that plane is that they have been very much part of this campaign. I mean, Don Jr., Eric, Ivanka, you know, very important advisors to their father, the president-elect, and, of course, Ivanka's husband, real estate developer Jared Kushner, actually going to be taking a job in the administration. And so this, just as the Trump organization, the real estate company, the golf courses, the hotels, was sort of a family affair, to an interesting degree, the presidency is going to be operated that way as well. These are important people in the new president's life.
And even so many young children coming down that stairway, and those are kids that we've seen all along who are going to be at things and be involved. I mean, we have little kids. It makes me a little nervous.
Not everybody on the couch.
I
don't have
in
children.
the sense that I can't always guarantee how mine are going to behave, and that is just to see those kids come down the stairs. That would be the thing I would be thinking about most. How am I going to behave? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, my son would be flipping that staircase.
So the event that he's going to be attending right away will be a leadership luncheon at the Trump International Hotel. So they are en route right now. We'll be following that every step of the way. But President-elect Donald Trump has arrived in Washington 24 hours ahead of his swearing in. We've got more pictures coming up now. As promised, there are cameras on 11th Street there awaiting the president-elect's arrival. Not huge crowds in that camera shot, but we are told that police, and this is in front of the Trump Hotel, police have already cleared the scene awaiting their arrival. So we should see them arrive shortly. And of course, tomorrow, it's unbelievable when you look at the schedule. Inauguration Day, get ready, 8:30 a.m. It begins with prayer, a prayer service at St. John's Episcopal Church. Coffee date at the White House. The swearing-in ceremony, how he begins at 11:30 a.m. and around noon, the oath of office and the inaugural address will take place.
What's so fascinating to me is that Donald Trump won this election by breaking every rule in the book, by flouting all the conventions of politics. Indeed, he'd never been in politics. But now you see him becoming part of this larger American pageantry and tapestry where you have the rituals and the lunch and the ride with the former president to the Capitol and giving the inaugural speech. And it really is a moment for him personally, for the country, as the guy who was the ultimate outsider becomes the powerful insider.
You know, you bring up an excellent point. I can't remember being as interested in an inaugural speech as I am in this one tomorrow, because I think we knew what to expect from whether it was George Bush or Bill Clinton or Barack Obama, but what do you expect from Donald Trump, or what kind of tone is he going to take? Because he is so unpredictable. And you're hoping, or at least I'm hoping, that whatever the tone is, it sets the tone. It's not going to set the tone for his administration, because I think he varies with the wind, but at least will set the tone for the first couple of weeks. And it'll be interesting to see. I'm not sure if he claims he wrote it himself. I don't know if that's the case. Usually they have a lot of help. But whether it does appeal to our better angels, or whether he persists in taking the tone that he has in recent months of I won and you better fall in line, and it'll be interesting to see what he does. You said philosophical. I'm curious to see whether it's a John Locke philosophy or Thomas Hobbes, or a Hobbes philosophy, where life is dark, cruel, and then we die, essentially.
I think it will be similar to the tone that he took at 3 a.m. on the night that he won the presidency, calling for unity and reaching out. Now, when he starts work Monday morning, I mean, it's not that he's not going to be prepared to take on his detractors and his opponents, not just in the Democratic Party, but perhaps in the House GOP as well. But I think for this speech, for this moment, Donald Trump is savvy enough to know that he now needs to project an image of being the president for all Americans.
All right, what a moment. As you just saw on the left-hand side of your screen, we were showing you the soon-to-be First Lady, Melania Trump, alongside the President-elect landing in Washington. That happened just a few moments ago. Now the motorcade is en route to the Trump Hotel in Washington. Police, as you can see, Secret Service have already blocked off the streets there. They are awaiting their arrival. The entire family, as you saw, Donald Trump's 4 oldest children, also his youngest son, Barron, getting off the plane, as well as some of his grandchildren. They are on their way for the festivities to begin. There will be a leadership luncheon taking place in just a short time. But this is such a moment in history. And Melissa, it's amazing when we look back covering Donald Trump from a business perspective for so long. What a moment to see Donald Trump entering the White House.
It's really true. I mean, I remember the day that he announced, and we were in our show meeting for my show, and we were talking about our rundown, and we said, well, Donald Trump's going to come out at some point and he's going to announce he's not running, so we'll get a soundbite from that and we'll use it later on. And he came out and he said he was running, and we're like, oh, that's interesting. But as he started talking, the whole thing sort of gathered steam, and he kept talking, and you realized that he was dead serious about this, and that it wasn't, as before we always thought of it as kind of a publicity thing, where he talked about being in politics because it was a great way to kind of get airtime and promote his other businesses, but underneath it all, he was about his shows and marketing. And I never really had the sense that he was that serious about politics. Then he came out and he said this, and he said he was running, and we kind of stood around the newsroom and looked at each other, and here we are now. I mean, it's just